How you doing, guys? My name's Marty, and I'm here with a video today. There's a YouTuber. Sorry, I don't know your name, but his screen name is Dark Hymns from the Cold North. Newish guy. I've been watching his stuff. Really good videos. He recently put up a 2-part video showing off the top 20 albums that got him into death metal, and he asked if I would share my journey as well. And yeah, it's a great idea. Very cool idea for a video. I'm more than happy to oblige, and a lot of other people are doing it too, so it's cool to us all compare notes, although I think a lot of the notes are the same. Very similar anyway, all depending on your age. First, before I get too far into this, in the background, Brutality, Screams of Anguish. This came out in '93 on Nuclear Blast. Well, in the US, Relapse. Awesome death metal from Florida. Check them out if you haven't heard them. So yes, death metal. Living in the northern part of Michigan my whole life, the underground really came late to me as far as getting into zines and tape trading and stuff. It kind of happened out of necessity and playing catch up. I grew up in the 70s listening to hard rock, evolved into Sabbath and Dio and Ozzy and Iron Maiden, stuff like that. A friend of mine, Scott, got me into thrash and stuff like that when we were in junior high school. It turned out to be very instrumental, and it was like the aha moment. At first I didn't like it, of course, but it grew on me, and it clicked, and it set my little vessel in motion for what ended up being it's been a very good journey. And having been around since things like this have started, I've been afforded the convenience of getting a lot of these things when they came out, and now trying to research and buy this stuff. Well, you better be a rich man or with rich woman, unless you're picking up reissues and stuff. And I was going to do like 20 counted down backwards, but to be honest, I'm just going to try to break it into eras. For me, I hung on to thrash for a long time, and it was bands that I'm going to show you. Granted, they're not death metal, but they were very instrumental in presenting more of a aggressive vocal style and speed and some technicality, and more of a thrashy brutality, I guess. But yeah, I'm gonna get started, and these are in no order. I'm just going from oldest to newest, although most of this shit is old. So bear with me. But yeah, starting off, Blood Feast, Kill for Pleasure. By all intents and purposes, all this shit is thrash, but it's very aggressive, very fast, really crazy high-end vocals. This could have steered me more towards black metal, but it was albums like this that got me set up in my head, moving out of the Dio and the Iron Maiden realm to accepting more aggressive music. Blood Feast, I listened to the shit out of that album. Of course, Celtic Frost, Morbid Tales. I mean, what is there to say about this? This could be the blueprints for death metal. In fact, they were on a Noise Records comp called Death Metal with Halloween, Dark Avenger, and Running Wild, which, if anybody has a spare copy of that laying around, I would like to buy it if your price isn't too insane. But Celtic Frost, Morbid Tales, this fucking album is, to this day, a classic. This is an original, US pressing. Metal Blade licensed it from Noise, but absolutely classic. Heavy. These guys introduced artistic, dark brutality. I mean, not like toilet bowl vocals brutality, but for the time when thrash dominated and started to get heavier and heavier, these guys were the instrument that showed a million other bands what dark heaviness could be absolutely fantastic, very influential in my journey. I've spun the shit out of this record too. And very similar band, obviously same country. In fact, these guys used to be roadies for Celtic Frost back in the day. You know, Corner's R.I.P. This is not death metal, but it's very atmospheric. It's very dark. It's heavy. Unlike their friends in Celtic Frost, Corner was way more technical. They presented a very dark atmosphere and aura on this album that opened my eyes to faster and heavier music as well. R.I.P. Absolute classic album on my journey to death metal. And this album could be in everybody's list as well. You know, I think a lot of people that got into this were being set up to be into black metal, but, you know, at the time, Kreator, Pleasure to Kill. Kreator is a big band in my youthful years. My teenage years were filled with spinning the shit out of these early Kreator albums. Up through Extreme Aggression, I absolutely worship this band. And this is great, man. This is one of those albums that never gets old. Complete monument to extreme music. You know, they call it thrash, but one could argue that it's right on the outskirts of the death metal scene staring in, you know. This is absolutely classic and essential on my journey to heavier music. And speaking of Possessed Seven Churches, I had this on tape back in the day. It got eaten in a crappy truck tape deck. Seven Churches, they coined the term death metal, I think, or they're saying that they did. But, you know, when I got this back when it came out, I just thought this was really dark thrash. You know, there wasn't really anything being called death metal back then, so all this shit was thrash. And these California band was dark, evil, very instrumental. You know, this could very well be one of the first death metal albums, even though it's, you know, kind of technical, kind of fast, super evil, kind of rides the cusp of death and black metal. But this is definitely one of those albums that set me on the course as well. And kind of the last for this style is a band from Canada that, oh God, I've spun the first two albums by Sacrifice. This one is their second, For Determination. I can't tell you how many times I've spun this record, this CD, this tape. I've had it on all three formats at one time or another over the years. I still have the CD. But this band, thrashy, dark, heavy. This was in '87. This came out. Set my world on fire for sure. And this was kind of through the high school years, getting out of high school. I graduated high school in 1989. Yes, I am older than dirt. And the first show I ever went to, I missed out on a lot of the scene that was happening in Detroit and the southern Michigan area because I lived up in the north and I did not hear about anything, nor did I have a way to get down there. But heard about this show. The first ever Michigan Death Fest was in Jackson, Michigan. Put on by Metal Mom. She was a promoter for Michigan. Her son was Todd, who was in the band Lucifer's Hammer, which was a fucking great band. The first ever Death Fest. The headliner was Morbid Angel, who I had never heard at this point. This was 1990. And Sacrifice. Sacrifice was also high on the bill. And I, of course, went down to see Sacrifice because I fucking love that band. And the lineup was an eye-opening experience for me. This is one of the bands that played Deceased, King Fowley and crew. These guys are stalwarts of the scene for sure. I mean, they've been at it since the beginning, doing what they do and doing it well. And seeing a drummer play at this show and sing and scream and going crazy and talking bullshit to the crowd was fucking awesome. And what they were playing was awesome. These guys are just really, they're like gutter death metal, street death metal, down, dirty, drag your knuckles on the ground, bloody fucking scraps death metal. very big eye-opening experience. And I gotta say, for the first show ever going to, I was a little intimidated heading downstate. And getting there, you can get online actually on YouTube and see videos of this. There was a Christian organization that protested the event. They were there. They had a giant wooden cross and a bullhorn. They were handing out leaflets. You know, they were chanting Jesus, Jesus, and of course everybody on the side waiting to get into the concerts going Satan, Satan. Cops came, made sure that the Christians didn't cross into where we were because they were afraid there was going to be violence. It was kind of intimidating, you know, first time ever out of Traverse City really going down to a show like that and having such a media frenzy around it. It's pretty cool. It was pretty cool. Made it a little bit more special maybe even. But from there on, I mean, on the way in, someone was walking down the path selling demos. And I've shown this before. Morticia's Genetic Blur demo. This is I don't know where these guys are from. I didn't really research it. But this is like kind of Autopsy-ish death metal. Really raw. This was like a rehearsal stuff. And there's 2 demos on here. Actually, I recorded it on the other side. But, you know, and being into thrash and hearing this, getting home and putting this on, I was pretty blown away by this. Morticious. These guys did 2 demos and faded into obscurity. I don't think they ever did an album. If they did, correct me if I'm wrong. So yes, this was a very big instrumental. It showed me also that the underground existed. Here I am holding a demo, an actual demo tape, and being handed flyers. You know, this is a whole world that I missed out on the North. And once I got home, believe me, I started doing all I could to, you know, contact other bands, zines, trying to find out as much as I could about this scene. But another band that was on the bill that day, I think there was a band called Sinister Black that started it all off. I don't remember them that much. They were kind of like the odd man out on the bill. But Deceased, another band, but I think these guys are from Buffalo, New York. I'm not entirely sure, but Baphomet, Dead Shall Inherit. Again, I had never heard this band before. They play a more New York style brutal death metal, but it isn't like suffocation death metal. It's more old school death metal, really bloated, and there's fast parts, but there's also really heavy parts. It's not as super technical as a lot of other bands from that area. I don't know if these guys are from Buffalo or not. Don't hold me to that. I'm not sure. But this band, seeing them live, and just the singer was just like banging his fucking head off so much his face was turning beet red. The security guards were laughing at him and stuff. It was, again, being a thrash guy, seeing this live right in front of me, like right in front of the stage, was like, holy fuck. Very influential. And also, another band on that bill. Like I said, this was a very big instrumental concert in my life and opened me up to a lot of different things. Nuclear Death, Carrion for Worm. Nuclear Death played. Lori Bravo, playing bass, screaming. She had a cup of fake blood and she dipped a maxi pad in it and said "Women bleed" and threw it out into the crowd, and it was pretty fucking rad, man. And kind of grindy. These guys are from Arizona, I believe. This is a Wild Rags pressing, obviously probably only pressing. No, there's been reissues of this, but very cool death metal. And is that it? Oh yes, Morbid Angel. I've heard of them, but I'd never heard them. And obviously it pointed me in the direction of this album, which is an eternal classic. You know, this is another one of those albums that never gets old, never gets tiring, no matter how many times I've heard it. I can put it on and it teleports me back to that fucking concert where their smoke machine worked overtime and completely filled that hockey arena. So much you couldn't see your hand in front of your face, but man, they were so fucking good. But yeah, those are some bands from one concert, one fest that really got me on a hunt. And not only is there albums that got me into death metal, I mean, me being older, compilations were also a very big part. And 89 to 92, 93 compilations were the way to hear more bands. And these are actual tapes that I bought when they came out back in the day. This was one of my favorites, In the Eyes of Death. This is a Century Media Records compilation featuring classic tracks by Unleashed, Morgoth, Loud Blast, Asphyx, Tiamat, Grave. I can't believe this tape even still works. I've spun it so many times and so many impure tape decks, it's amazing it even still works. But you know, this turned me on to a lot of like the Swedish sound, Unleashed, Morgoth, German, just filthy fucking awesome death metal, which Aaron the Metal Theologian just shown a couple Morgoth EPs. Super classic. Asphyx, which Pestilence should have been in this list, but there's just too many bands. You know, I say Pestilence because Asphyx, Martin Van Drunen on vocals, was bass player and singer in Possessed as well. Consuming Impulse is one of those albums that is another one that I wore the fucking grooves out of that thing. Another comp, very huge in my development, is Death is Just Beginning 2. This was a Relapse Records Nuclear Blast America comp. You know, Dismember, Benediction, Defecation, Monstrosity, Brutality, who we're listening to now, Amorphous, Winter. Hugely influential. And Road Racer, of course, had to do it as well at a collection of brutal death metal at Death's Door. This is another really great comp. Deicide, Sepultura, Pestilence, Morgoth, Sadis, who aren't really death metal, they're just super tech thrash, fucking scathing and awesome band from California. Death, Obituary, Malevolent Creation, Believer, Cerebral Fix. At this point, the 90s, early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, is when things were pretty much off the hook for me as far as investigating as much death metal as I could find. There was a place down in southern Michigan called Vinyl Solution, which at the time I didn't think much of it, but since then, you know, Vinyl Solution, kind of a sketchy record store name. Didn't think about it much then, but I bought all three of these on the same day, the same visit. First off, Entombed's Left Hand Path. Crushing guitars, mass death. Indeed, man. This fucking thick as a fucking skyscraper guitar tone. The studio Sunlight sound. But, yeah, born out of Nihilist. Members went on to be came from Carnage, and members went on to be in Unleashed out of a Nihilist. Was it Nihilist, Carnage, Entombed? Entombed is the direct descendant of Nihilist, but Johnny Headland also went on to form Unleashed, who put out some amazing shit over the years. That day I also got, because the album cover was cool, Bolt Thrower, In Battle There Is No Law. First press on Vinyl Solution. Absolutely killer. Kind of punkish in sound. It really took me a while to get into this one. Obviously, Bolt Thrower evolved into more of a death metal powerhouse, but this album still opened my eyes to a lot of different sounds, the crust punk death metal combination. And to top it all off on another comp, Grind Crusher comp. You know, I had seen Morbid Angel at this point, but I had never heard Repulsion, Carcass, Godflesh, Napalm Death, Terrorizer, another Bolt Thrower, Intense Degree, and Filthy Christians. You know, this was released on cassette as well and CD with a bunch more tracks, but I only paid $6.99 for this, new. And yeah, Carcass, Exhumed to Consume is a version exclusive to this. It's a recording exclusive to this comp. Fucking sick, man. But from there, the doors were blown wide open. I've only got four more things to show you. You know, Combat, Metal Blade, back in the day, we didn't have the internet, so basically we bought things that were on record labels. And Combat, you know, they had Agnostic Front, you know, Combat Core, a lot of the crossover stuff came out on Combat, so when this band popped up, Death, on Combat, I bought it on tape first, and this was like one of the first, when CDs first came out, and I got my first CD player. I bought 3 CDs one day. I bought Scream Bloody Gore, Slayer Show No Mercy, and King Diamond Abigail all on the same day with money I saved up for, and it was all downhill from there. But obviously, Death, Scream Bloody Gore, this could be considered one of the first true death metal albums. You know, might as well call yourself Death, right? Formed out of Mantis. Members of Mantis went on to be in Massacre and, you know, shit like that. But this album, to this day, this is my favorite Death album because obviously, probably because it was the first thing I heard by Chuck. Mutilation, Zombie Ritual, Torn to Pieces, Sacrificial. Oh. Get goosebumps just thinking about how great this fucking album is. And it's really cool that it's been reissued on vinyl. People are picking it up and going crazy for it. But obviously, since Chris Reifert was in this band, I had to find out more. And he started his own band, Autopsy, which I had on cassette. I had this on cassette initially. This is something I picked up much later through eBay. I started off with Severed Survival around the time it came out on cassette. I think I've gotten rid of the tape by now. But I also had to check it out because Steve DiGiorgio plays bass on this, and from Sadus. He's now in Testament. But, I mean, he's one of the best bass players on the planet, and his fretless bass work on this sludgy, slow, sick, filthy death metal is just so fucking unique, man. Autopsy, Severed Survival, you know, people are like, oh, Mental Funeral. Yeah, Mental Funeral is fucking awesome, but this has got so much more character with the bass work, man. Songs are, from beginning to end, perfect. Carcass, Symphonies of Sickness. This and Necroticism are probably two of the most listened to albums in my life that I can even imagine. I cannot tell you how many times I've listened to this. And again, doesn't get old, never gets tired, never sounds bad or weak. Necroticism especially, that album is so fucking good. And I was so disappointed when Heartwork came out. Yeah, I was happy there was a new Carcass album, but it was slick, produced, melodic. Man, it was a departure from what they were. And the last record I'm going to show, I've shown over 20 at this point, including all the comps and the demo and shit. But this one's a gem, man. I've shown this. I've talked about this numerous times on this channel. I've told Aaron the Metal Theologian to get this. This is just a great fucking album. Sinister, Across the Sticks. Technical, brutal death metal that is not cheesy, mosh-inducing stuff. It is just, it's like thinking man's death metal with Mike. His vocals are so fucking sick and great. Yes, the album that came out after this, Diabolical Summoning, is really good as well, but it's more Suffocation influenced, I think. This is more stand on its own, kind of their own style of brutal death metal. It's basically brutal death metal with a European vibe, with weird darkness and twists and turns and song structure. But Across the Sticks, this is a fucking gem of an album, man. Another one of those that I can listen to forever and ever and ever. Alex Krull from Autopsy actually produced this album before. What did I say? Autopsy? I meant Atrocity. Alex Krull from Atrocity. I don't know what I said. I wasn't listening to myself. Hopefully you're still listening. I don't have to listen to me, right? But yeah, that's it. This has been a fun video, and this could have went on forever and ever and ever, because, you know, the early days of this genre, it really was important to do your research, and if you missed something, try to track it down and get it. I think that still holds true today. You know, people that are younger and just getting into this music, I find it must be a very daunting task for you to have to go back in time and because, you know, the past of death metal and metal in general is very influential and important to what metal is today. And a lot of these albums are like a time capsule, but they're a time capsule. They never change. They never get tiring. They never get old. And they're just as relevant now as the day they were released. And I pity the people that are just now going, I pity the fools, bitches, that are just now going back and having to research everything to get up to speed. Because obviously modern death metal is a completely different animal than this old stuff was. The old stuff was a lot more simplistic, not as fast. You know, this whole turbo death metal movement, bands like Nile, who are great, don't get me wrong, Christian, you know, they just amped up the fucking speed factor to 11. You know, it evolved it into something different than what it was. And, you know, I could be the old man, get off my lawn type shit and say the old shit's better. In fact, I'm going to say that. I think the old shit is better. I think the songwriting was better. I think new modern death metal, some bands, you know, some of the bands that have been so over-hyped, they rely on speed and technique. They rely on the speed and the technique rather than good songwriting. You know, Autopsy. Can you imagine if Autopsy was a turbo death metal band? It would not be the same. But anyway, I'm doing this. I'm going to stop. But thanks to Dark Hymns from the Cold North for setting this in motion. It's cool to see everybody else doing it as well, because we are herd mentality. We are Borg. I guess that's it. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks a lot for watching.